What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, the only thing I could verify was what I had my hands on. There were different projects. Project Sidekick was supposed to be weapon applications of the craft. Project Looking Glass had to do with time, any effects of time in the craft. Oh, well, one of two things. Either there's a gravitational envelope in there which negates any inertia effects, or you are seeing through a gravity distortion field. So, just like you're looking at a hot highway and you see, an optical distortion going through there. Well, the same thing happens in gravity, and the craft may not actually be moving like that. It may just look like it. So it may be making much more gentle moves. I'm not saying that's it, but it has to be one of the two.
All right, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving down the rabbit hole of three important things. It's CERN, Project Looking Glass, and the Mandela Effect. Also joining us today is Pearl. Pearl, say hi. She's a little bit shy for the camera. But yeah, grab your drink of choice. We're about to dive down this rabbit hole of Project Looking Glass, the Mandela Effect, and CERN. All right, let's get it.
If you remember watching Shazam in the 90s with Sinbad the actor, well, the movie never existed.
You all remember a movie called Shazam with Sinbad playing a genie?
You know what? The movie was never real. It was, the rumor started in 2009. I don't know where it came from, but it's not real.
Millions of people remember watching this movie, but it never existed. Apparently, it's a Mandela Effect, a collective false memory of something that a lot of people remember, but it never happened. Just like, for instance, the Mandela effects of the Monopoly guy with the monocle, the Berenstain Bears with an E, and George the monkey with the tail. These things never happened. And the thing is, I recently found videos of people who actually have a VHS tape of the Shazam.
I still don't
movie.
understand the whole issue with this movie Shazam, with Sinbad.
If it never existed, how come a lot of people still have the VHS tape? Are we in a different timeline? Time travel? Parallel universe? What's going on?
But yet it never existed.
Strange, isn't it? But it gets even stranger. I found an original scene from the Shazam movie. In it, several Mandela effects.
What are you doing? Dad could have thrown out all of Mom's stuff. He just couldn't have. James, there's gotta be something he forgot here. Something real we can remember her by.
George, the monkey with the tail. What?
Hey, we have our memories. They're real. No one can take that from us. Yeah, clean this up. Can you imagine if Dad saw this mess?
Really hooked on them.
Bless you. What is that?
Berenstain Bears with an E. What? Nelson Mandela dead at 68. What? Last but not least, Carmen Sandiego with a yellow suit. Why would someone leave so many Mandela effects inside of a movie that never existed? What is going on here? Time travel or what?
All right, so I legitimately remember watching Shazam as a kid. Have you watched Shazam? I was like 5 years old. That definitely did happen. I do remember the whole Mandela dying in prison. The Froot Loops, that was changed. Kraft macaroni and cheese.
Now we all Froot Loops is not spelled Fruit Loops. It's spelled Froot Loops. The Mandela Effect is gonna have you second guessing some things. Cruella never wore a Dalmatian coat. Her coat was always plain. Another Mandela effect is the Coca-Cola logo. Now we all know it has a dash, but which dash is the correct one? Just when I thought I was right, I got it wrong. Fun fact, Coca-Cola actually had coca in it. I'm talking booger sugar. If you ever watched Scooby-Doo, then you will remember that Shaggy had a big Adam's apple. Now when you look at those same episodes, you realize that it was never there, which bugged me out so much that I made it my life goal to find it. Although he could have just been swallowing, pause. I know I'm not the only one with these Mandela effects. So it's either they didn't put their devices on high, or people just out here tripping.
The 14 Mandela effects that make you doubt the past. Alexander Hamilton never served as the President of the United States. He was actually the first Secretary of the Treasury. Disney's Mickey Mouse character has a tail. Curious George has never had a tail. Some people remember different numbers of rings around the bullseye in the Target logo, but the one on the left is the correct one. The Berenstain Bears are actually called the Berenstain Bears. The Raisin Bran son doesn't wear sunglasses. There's no hyphen in the name of KitKat chocolate bars. In I Love Lucy, Ricky never actually said, "Lucy, you got some splaining to do." Shaggy from Scooby-Doo doesn't have a prominent Adam's apple. The song from Grease is actually Greased Lightnin', not Grease Lightnin'. Jiffy peanut butter doesn't exist. It's Cheez-It, not Cheez-Its. It's Captain Crunch, not Captain Crunch. Those onion ring snacks are called Funyuns, not Funyuns. Which of these facts shocked you?
Just keep on scrolling. Crazy Mandela effects that I can guarantee you have not seen before. These will genuinely blow your mind and make you question everything. Now, unless you want to be absolutely terrified out of your mind, then just keep on scrolling. Honestly, this will keep you up all goddamn night. First up, Disney. Probably everyone remembers this. Yeah, Tinkerbell dotting the I in the intros. I remember this vividly, like, I clearly remember this happened. Well, it didn't. And it never did. What? A lot of people swear that they remember a robber emoji and a hiker emoji which looks similar to this one right here. Now, especially the robber one, I remember that extremely clearly. Like, I used that, I swear. But it never existed. Apple didn't remove it or anything, it just never existed. Now, your parents will no doubtably remember the book and everything, the Berenstain Bears. It was extremely famous. Everybody knows it was called the Berenstain Bears. But it's always been called the Berenstain Bears.
Top 6 most weird Mandela effects. Do you remember Cruella de Vil's coat with Dalmatian spots? Apparently it never had spots. Pikachu with a black tail. People say he's never had a black tail. The bucket list phrase wasn't around until the movie came out in 2007. Air Jordan Jumpman now has pants. Mississippi no longer the longest river in the United States. The Berenstain Bears spelled with a U-R-A.
This creeps me out, man. I don't like to be in this room anymore. I sleep in here. Look at that. That shit is changing. Right?
Alright, we just came through the Mandela effect. Now we're jumping in to the looking glass. And then we'll follow through with CERN because they all connect. Literally, pun intended. Alright, Pearl left us. She went to go lay down. Let's keep diving.
Some of you might know me because of a story I broke last March concerning something called the Guardians of the Looking Glass. Basically, what we had here is a technology that was built which would give those people who operated that technology, of course, a huge advantage because they could see and view timelines within a stream, within a field. You know, the awareness of this technology came to us through certain whistleblowers, and one of them was a guy by the name of Dan Burish, who went into some detail about how that technology was acquired. It starts at the end of the Second World War. It was the first time that the United States ever came into contact with certain ETs, you could say, who began appearing over the skies of the United States. And their appearance, again, was accompanied by crashes and captures of both the craft and the pilots piloting that craft. And it leads directly to the formation of the breakaway civilization, that which was created by one ultra secret society that was called Majestic 12. They who have ultimately come into possession of the looking glass material and time travel and other technologies ever since. So between 1947 and the early 50s, there were a series of crashes that took place, not just one, and they started the whole back engineering process. And they also had captured extraterrestrial beings. And the Looking Glass has ended up in S4 Area 51.
The program out at Area S4 consisted of 3 projects: Project Galileo, Project Sidekick, and Project Looking Glass. Project Galileo dealt with gravity propulsion. Project Sidekick dealt with a beam weapon that had a neutron source and was focused by a gravity lens. Project Looking Glass dealt with the physics of seeing back in time.
What they really discovered, in principle...
You're not supposed to be alive. None of us are. About 10 years ago, you woke up to an eerie silence. The power was out. You went to check your phone for news, but your phone was dead. Then you realized everything was dead. Some kind of blackout, you thought. You looked out your window, confused. It looked like a normal December morning. Holiday decorations were up, though all the Christmas lights were out. You saw neighbors also peering through windows and standing on their front porches. Everyone was looking up. It looked like the stars were falling, only they weren't stars. They were satellites and space debris. It was raining fire. And for the first time in your life, you saw the aurora borealis in the middle of the day. You looked at the calendar. Today's date was supposed to mean something. But before you could remember, everything went black. It was December 21st, 2012. The end of the world. In early 1948, the curator for the National Museum of Iraq had a very exciting meeting. 2 American archaeologists walked into his office with a briefcase and set it gently on his desk next to a dusty cardboard box. The 3 men exchanged polite greetings and shook hands. One of the Americans dialed a code on the case, popped the locks, and opened it. It was full of cash. Stacks of $100 bills, United States legal tender. Very, very nice. The curator removed the lid of what looked like an old, unmarked shoebox. Inside, there were 2 ancient Sumerian cylinder seals. The Americans were willing to pay handsomely for these. The curator wasn't even sure why. A cylinder seal is nothing more than a tube made of stone or metal engraved with a design. They were used by everybody in Sumer. It was basically a stamp. You rolled the cylinder over a document or a piece of leather. The engraving on the cylinder imprinted its design, which served as a personal signature on a document or package. It was a way for a Sumerian to guarantee authenticity of a business deal, like signing a contract.
Box, you could only record an event by thinking of it. Now, theoretically, we believe we can take a videotape magnetic camera into the time zone and photograph Lincoln's Gettysburg Address or Caesar's armies marching or anything that's ever happened.
All right, let me get this straight. In other words, you're telling me, like H.G. Wells imagined 50 years ago, that everything that happened in time is still there to be seen by the recreation electronically of a thought which exists.
Jack, you know how you talk into a tape on a tape recorder and play the interruptions back, identical to the play that you made. The Earth's magnetic field is the same way. You can put interruptions into it and play them back out of it. An associate of ours in creating a magnetic coupler with this principle coupled in the Earth's magnetic field and played back TV shows from stations that aren't even in business anymore.
You mean an experiment has been done to bring out of the air television programs which have been and gone?
Been and gone.
Now, where was this experiment conducted?
It was conducted in Santa Monica by an associate of mine.
Why hasn't this hit the headlines throughout the world? That's a time machine in action. In fact,
Jack, the reason it hasn't hit the world is because, as I understand it now, the Navy Department took him and the research over because he also discovered he could bounce magnetic echoes off the ionosphere and locate submarines under the ocean, regardless of where they were.
So who is this associate of yours?
This is a fellow named Charlie Arts.
Charlie Arts?
Yeah.
And is he a free man walking around today?
Well, he's free where he is in this...
Nationally kept secrets would shatter most people's imagination of what is possible.
This is probably one of the more well-known black-budget time travel projects, with the exception of the Montauk Project. Many whistleblowers have said that the program was not actually shut down, but just classified into deep black.
The people that know everything about Looking Glass, that have gotten all the reports and all the information, the elites of the world, probably figured out that that was the end of the game, and nothing could be manipulated beyond that point.
According to the alleged insiders, the Looking Glass technology was apparently used to look backward and forward in time, using the consciousness of an operator as a type of steering mechanism. The operator would sit in a chair that was apparently recovered from a downed extraterrestrial craft, capable of interfacing with consciousness directly. When the device was turned on, strong toroidal fields of energy cycled about a pouch of water at the center, which acted as a sort of resonator for in-streaming energies from the point of focus maintained by the operator. The data was collected and projected onto video monitors at incredible speeds, which later needed to be deinterlaced to reveal discernible images. What's interesting is that the biases of the operator would have a direct effect on the images collected. For example, if one were to look back to the time of Jesus' crucifixion, if the person doing so was an atheist, they may not see anything at all. But if the person was a Christian, they may see the infamous crucifixion event. This is suggestive of a time-space mechanic in the universe, wherein the human mind is able to navigate through time itself. The work of Dewey B. Larson and his reciprocal systems theory provides the basis for this interpretation. Briefly, as described by Larson, the universe is broken up into two physical regions, as defined by motion. Below the speed of light, motion operates in 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time. Above the speed of light, motion operates in 1 dimension of space and 3 dimensions of time. As bizarre as that sounds, the mind is uniquely equipped to navigate in time, which is able to access memories of the past, gain awareness of events in the present, conceive of future possibilities, and even imagine alternative events that did not actually happen. In other words, the human mind can select the point of focus, just like in remote viewing, and receive the information from the store of memories made during the experience.
Do you know the difference between Looking Glass and the yellow cube?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware of what happened to the yellow cube and how it was used and so on?
I believe that the yellow cube still exists. I can't say for certain if it's on this planet, but I would say that it's definitely protected from use at this point.
Okay, well that coincides with the testimony we got.
The yellow cube or the yellow book would give you your possible future.
Yes.
So it took basically the choices that you would inherently make along a timeline and tell you what that timeline would be, given that you made all the choices that your brain would make.
Well, this is exactly what I was just going to ask you. What we were told is that leaders of governments and so on, people in high places, politically, would use this to try to see their most optimum future and then follow those. So they were using it to enhance their wealth, et cetera,
Yep.
in a very egotistical way. And that was part of the problem with it.
The Looking Glass device seems to be capable of the same type of process, to access a data stream from any conceivable location in space or time, steered via the consciousness of an operator. According to the testimony of Burish, the technology was provided to the human race during the Sumerian times, when an advanced contingent of future humans went back in time and provided that civilization assistance after a cataclysm known as the Deluge. The Sumerian cylinder seals were encoded with plans to build the Looking Glass device. Earlier versions of the project saw the development of an actual portal that an individual could move through to jump in time. According to Burish, accounts provided by captured beings known in the program as P-45s, future humans 45,000 years into the future, the Earth was destroyed by massive cataclysms around the year 2012. This is apparently because Looking Glass devices were actively being used during a major celestial alignment, which overloaded the organic energy grid of the planet. Burish further claims that the device has been dismantled as a result of discovering two probable timelines, one of which is the cataclysm described by the captured being. An attempt was made to look into the future, but no concrete data was able to be received past the infamous date of December 21st, 2012, suggesting that this date is a nexus point in time, whereby either Timeline 1 or Timeline 2 would gain momentum. In the last report, Burish suggested that Timeline 1, the positive timeline, had an over 80% likelihood of coming to fruition. Given that we are nearly a decade beyond the 2012 date, and no major cataclysms have occurred, we are most likely well entrenched within the positive timeline. This is undoubtedly one of the more intriguing topics in Awakening Times, which seems to be well hidden in popular works of fiction. Corey Good, a secret space program insider, claims to have reviewed documentation relating to this project.
It would be very hard to accept that all of this information that is currently held secret and classified.
Have you ever heard the saying, deja vu? Deja vu, you know, it's like reliving a moment, like you've been there before. And you did that exact same thing, had the exact same conversation in the same atmosphere, same clothing, same lighting, everything. What are your thoughts so far on Project Looking Glass? Do you think that the Mandela Effect and the Project Looking Glass and CERN is all connected? Well, let's keep diving.
I remember when we first met. You didn't know who you were yet. I didn't know who I was. We grew up together.
Since the splitting of the atom only a few decades ago, and through his God-given genius of science, man, at last, has succeeded in penetrating further and further into the unknown vastness of space. Yet many questions remained unanswered. What is his Earth in relation to the inconceivable number of other worlds? Could there be life similar to our own on other planets? Could their intellect have reached a scientific level far above man's dreams? What then will the future reveal, if this story you are about to witness is only the beginning?
Let me put it in terms that it's easier for me to say and not have to go into the details of how I know, but just that I know. I'll present it to everybody very simply. What could be so important at Area 51 that would require the level of secrecy that is in existence around that facility? One of the caveats that I do have some personal information that I did get personally involved in was some information that had to do with the Stargates and Looking Glass. It's like the Wicked Witch, you know, looking into the, you know, magic mirror and always getting the same answer. Well, if you were always getting the exact opposite of the answer that you wanted, you'd stop talking to the mirror. And that's essentially what happened with Looking Glass. Is no longer, not only did they not want people to use it anymore because they knew it was just going to burp out the same thing, but at the same time they didn't want anybody else to know what it was saying, I'm sure. Because
they would lose control.
Because that information was a monumental concern when I was in the military about how to prevent this inevitability. Now, at first, I thought it was end of the world. Now I see end of the world as end of their world. It's an inevitable event. It's been forecast, it's been predicted, it's been fed to us in a slop trough of what they want us to believe will happen.
But they don't.
However, they don't actually have control over what happens. They only have control over the reaction, and it seems that no matter what they tried to do to cause their desired reaction, it's going to have an opposite effect.
Interesting.
Now, it's much, much easier for me to explain today what that process is as opposed to back then. But if I had to give it a name, I would say it's the awakening process. It's an evolution of consciousness that cannot, will not, and no matter what decisions or possibilities are injected into the equation, eventually it all resolves down to us all learning the truth and becoming aware of this massive dam of lies that has been built that keep us from knowing massive volume of information that we should. I could convince everybody out there that for all intents and purposes, what we believe to be true eventually becomes true. If somebody convinces us that a major disaster is going to happen in the very near future, a major disaster happens in the very near future. If we don't buy into that fear and accept that there's really nothing that we know is going to happen, and accept of whatever happens, that makes the convergence of the timelines happen as naturally as possible. Any attempts to try to go away from this one inevitable conclusion, I again see as a new beginning, an end of this reality, the beginning of something that we can't even possibly understand based on the level of our beliefs currently. But when all that information comes flooding out, there's going to be no denying what's true and what's a lie or what's illusion. As far as advanced intellectual abilities, as far as simple intelligence levels, and cognitive skills of the human race has increased exponentially in the past 20 years. And people that were 10 years old in 1991 are now 30 years old and fully awake and conscious of this burning inside that says, I am a lot more than what I see in the mirror.
Yo, he dropped a lot of gems there, right? Do you believe that we are capable of, no, not capable. Do you believe that we are living in different timelines or different dimensions? Now, let me tell you something. When I dream very vivid. And every time I dream that I'm somewhere else. I'm a different version of me. And there's different versions of my friends and family. But then there are people that I've never met in my life, but I dreamed them. They talk to me, and it feels like I know them. I feel like when I dream, I dream walk. For those who know what dream walking is, that you're walking in another universe or reality. Not like astral projecting, but when you slip into that unconscious state when you're sleeping, I believe that I do, that I'm living a version in a different timeline. And I swear to you, I can remember my dreams very vividly. How many of you dream walk? And for those who know, you know. All right, let's keep diving.
You remember the movie They Live? When he puts on glasses and he can see the aliens in the crowd that normally without the glasses just look like normal humans? Some say this movie was actually based on the events of Dicenian glass. You won't believe what's behind the story of these weird-looking blue goggles. And this is a subject which has the least amount of search results on Google that I've ever seen for any other theory or conspiracy. So in the early 1900s, a guy named Walter Kilner, who you can't even find a picture of him on Google, developed a sort of dye from coal tar. So he took this collodion-coated dye-treated glass plates and put Dicenian dye, that's the thing from the coal tar, in the middle of this glass. And the story goes that with these glasses, you can see outside of the normal range of visible light. All of a sudden your eyeballs can detect different wavelengths and frequencies of light. And it's said to have enabled the user to see people's auras. And you could see how strong or how weak someone's aura is, which is the electromagnetic field that we all emanate, at least normal humans do. But where this gets a little crazy, it's said that Walter Kilner, when he wore these glasses in public, not everyone had an aura. Not just a weak aura, but no aura at all. You remember the movie They Live? When he puts on glasses and he can see the aliens in the crowd that normally without the glasses just look like normal humans? Some say this movie was actually based on the events of Dicenian glass. And then, of course, Walter's place gets raided and all of his equipment confiscated, and this gets totally buried and no one knows anything about it to this day, except for a couple stories floating around the internet. So I'm going to try to get some Dicenium and make my own Dicenium glasses, and I'll see ya and see if you're real.
Yo, I'm about to get this Dicenium and put it in these glasses. Let me see if I can see the auras of the people around me. NPCs, demons, aliens, Plemidians, Greys, lizard people, you name it. Let's keep diving.
And have you heard of Project Looking Glass? This is a CGI rendering straight from the whistleblower's brain, and it is said to be a device that was captured right along with Saddam Hussein in Iraq. And the military men and scientists say that that might just be the reason why the Iraq war took place. We had to go and get this bad boy because it holds some really interesting properties. The whistleblowers have stated that when you fire this bad boy up...
All right, I had to pause it real quick. Remember when I said Iraq and its treasures? The reason why 9/11 occurred? Because of the Stargates and the pyramids, the technologies. Let's keep diving. Let's go.
Up, all these wheels start turning, and it creates an orb of light, and then opens a portal, and you can see into the future. To give you an idea of its size, me down here is about the size of a full human being. Some whistleblowers even say once the portal is opened, you can descend a human being down in it and send them into the vision. Ooh, all this time travel stuff gets me excited. Makes me want to jump around like Richard Simmons. Speaking of which, one of our followers here at 7 Club had pointed out to me that Richard Simmons might have pranced his way into the Mandela Effect. Because if you look at this collage, do you notice anything missing? Walmart's Halloween section even remembers Richard Simmons wearing a head sweatband and wrist sweatbands. So could this device be connected to the Mandela Effect? I mean, if this is used for time travel, maybe somebody went through the portal and gave Richard Simmons just the right compliment where he did not feel the need to cover up this bad boy. I'm telling you, there's plenty of room there for probably 2 sweatbands. But no, for real, I encourage you to look into Project Looking Glass. The whistleblowers' testimonies are very interesting, and they just blow my mind. But one thing I found really interesting about this is it started to look familiar to me. You know the biblical depiction of angels? This is a CGI rendering of Ezekiel 1:4-28, depiction of what angels might look like. And what do angels do in the Bible? I mean, they bring visions, right? And this thing, what does it do? It brings visions. I'm not saying this thing's an angel by any means, but it's kind of crazy how this is wheels within wheels. And in Ezekiel 1, chapter 4-28, it mentions wheels within wheels multiple times. My favorite whistleblower on Project Looking Glass talks about how they can look in all portions of time with this thing, all the way up until December 21st, 2012, which was the end of the world in the Mayan calendar, right? We were all like, oh no, the end of the world. But he says that from 2012 on, there is an inevitable end that they cannot go back in time and change the outcome of. They've used supercomputers to try to calculate a different end. The elites supposedly are just working as hard as they can to try and change that inevitable end that is coming. And I believe that that is biblical prophecy, that is that inevitable end. Because he's very vague, but he describes it as a game of chess. He says, imagine the evil versus the good in a game of chess, and the evil's looking at the board and sees that in 7 moves, he has lost the game. It's end game. And the good guy's sitting there looking at the board knowing that in 7 moves, he is going to win. And the enemy's looking down, just prolonging the game. And that's where we're at right now, prolonging the game. And the only thing he really gave us in that moment was, because the interviewer was asking, like, what is it? What is it? What is the end? And he goes, let me just say this. Everyone is going to wake up to all of the truths. And if you're watching our channel, if you're here at 7 Club and you're a part of this community, you know what those truths are.
The inevitable end. Yes, we do know the truths. John 8:32. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. The inevitable end that they can't change is when Yeshua steps back on the stage and he defeats all dominions of evil, principalities, devils, all alike. Yeah, Project Looking Glass, they trying to reverse this, trying to stop Yeshua from coming back to earth, but he will come back and he will set the captives free. For those who believe that, say amen. Let's get it.
Not too long ago, I made a video about Project Looking Glass, which is basically a machine that they built that allowed high-ranking individuals to see the future. However, they could only see a future in which we, the common people, learned everything that they've lied about. Now, I already showed a piece of an interview from Bill Wood, who claimed to have worked on this project directly, but there's also another whistleblower named Bob Lazar who had an interview on Joe Rogan's podcast. Listen to what he says about it real quick.
Be weapon applications of the craft. Project Looking Glass had to do with time, any effects of time in the craft. Now, I don't think we're not talking about making a time machine like in science fiction, but we're talking about, small distortions, intentional distortions of time and how that can be used.
Now, I find it pretty interesting that multiple people have the exact same accounts of what this project is and what it involves. I want you guys to check out another interview from Bill Wood where he goes deeper into his thoughts on this project, and let me know in the comments, what do you think is the biggest secret that the elites are hiding?
See as a new beginning, an end of this reality, the beginning of something that we can't even possibly understand based on the level of our beliefs currently. But when all that information comes flooding out, there's going to be no denying what's true and what's a lie or what's illusion.
All right, we're about to dive into CERN. Let's get it.
That were true. What if CERN created a quantum camera which can take a quantum photograph of all of reality? If that were true, it would make the Large Hadron Collider the perfect fit for the mystery machine associated with Project Looking Glass. Everybody and their mom knows that you don't need the largest structure ever built in human history to smash particles together. And most of us are getting the sinking suspicion that CERN is responsible for all the insane things that are happening in the world right now. So let's discuss my quantum camera theory and how it connects to the idea of collapsing timelines and why things have gotten so damn strange in the world. I propose that the Large Hadron Collider might be capable of taking a quantum photograph of the entire Earth. In what ways would this differ from just taking a giant photograph of the entire Earth? Well, for one, it would be three-dimensional. And two, it would see every single particle in its quantum position across the entire planet. I'm talking every particle. When it took its picture, it could show the scientists every neutrino, neutron, photon, proton, gluon, you name it, and its exact position around the world. You might be wondering, what does that mean? Why is it important? And how would it explain all the strange things happening in our world right now? Well, that's where it gets really interesting. Because if this looking glass machine could take a picture right now in this moment and see every single particle in its position, and then take another picture in the next moment, it could understand the vectors of all the particles. Now, in layman's terms, this just means speed and direction. So if it could figure out the speed and direction of every particle, let's say, across the Earth, it could figure out where it was going. And then it could figure out where it was going to be in the future. And if you had enough powerful supercomputers, you could take all that quantum data and retranslate it into regular data. So then they could have an actual three-dimensional photograph of reality as human beings perceive it. What I just told you is a reasonable hypothesis for how we could build a machine that would be a literal crystal ball. Now let's say that's what CERN does, and let's say it is the mysterious machine behind Project Looking Glass. And let's say they can see as far as 10 years into the future, and they know every single quantum particle and where it's going to be in that future because they can just take all the data of the vectors and speeds now and say, well, if this is happening now, this obviously has to happen in the next point. And so they actually create a deterministic view of what reality is going to be. So what if the people in control of this machine didn't like what they saw? Maybe they saw themselves lose power. Well, then they'd have to change things. But how exactly would they do that? Like and follow for part 2.
Max's theory states that the Large Hadron Collider actually destroyed the old universe, where Berenstain Bears was spelled with an E. The idea is that an infinite number of parallel universes must exist. Therefore, what must have happened is the old timeline was smashed into this timeline and was destroyed. So we are from the old universe, but we are now in this universe or timeline. Max believes that when CERN performed the collision, it changed the atomic weight of an electron, which all have the exact same mass. This caused all of the other electrons to adjust and become the same weight, collapsing the old universe into a new hybrid universe where the weight of an electron is slightly different. But if this was only one, what is going to come up
So here's
next?
breaking news. On August 8th, 2024, we're going to be jumping timelines, according to Project Looking Glass, which it's a secret government project. How the hell do we know about this? Damn it, man. We know about it from this guy right here, who made the claim back in June. So if you're unfamiliar with what Project Looking Glass is, it's a secret government project which we somehow know about that uses quantum computing and advanced technology to look at other timelines, the future, and alter our timeline, or to force a timeline jump. And how would they do that? How could they force a timeline jump? Have you ever heard of collective consciousness? Because that's basically what it sums up to. Project Looking Glass discovered that if you get enough people that are thinking about and manifesting the same thing, you could alter the timeline. And TikTok, I'm just joking. This is all for shits and giggles, entertainment purposes only, and whatnot. The fall of the Soviet Union was thought to be the direct result of Project Looking Glass manifestation. And I can see everybody rolling their eyes. So how do you jump all of humanity into a different timeline? All you would need is a catastrophic event that would induce fear into the general public. When people are in a state of fear and confusion, they are less effective at manifesting their own desires, making the reality of today easier to manipulate by outside forces. They just need enough people to be afraid, to do what they want to do. And who's they? I have no idea. Obviously, how am I supposed to know this shit? This is a secret government project. How am I supposed to know this? I'm just a dude from Missouri with a cat that walks in the cemetery. But they sure did pick an interesting date to do this on August 8th, 2024. Because the coincidences that surround August 8th, 2024, it's just too much. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about the time traveler, Donald J. Trump. But that's for another video. Don't let them manipulate you this week. Be in control of your own consciousness. Fuck Project Looking Glass. Damn it, man. The other Donald Trump video is coming. I promise.
Why this great symbolism? Because those beings communicate in that way. They don't communicate in the linear way. Everything that they do is done through their language. Their language is symbol. They speak through symbols. Even as hieroglyphs, they're symbols. That's how they communicate. It's a much more efficient way of getting across information than using the Western alphabet, which is crap.
Here are my thoughts on the symbolism. When they do those symbolisms, all those things, up and down, they're pledging their allegiance and they're showing their side and their true colors to the lizard people watching, the Plemidians, the aliens, the Greys, the demons, the principalities. Those signs are all allegiance to them. And when they do that on TV and they introduce it to the masses to deceive them, and then the masses do these things in concerts, rock the t-shirts and the clothing, they're giving allegiance to the principalities. All right, that's what a symbolism's all about. Let's go.
Knowledge base. At this point, we begin our second part, which is the section that contains what I call excerpts from the government Bible. I call it that because, as you can tell from part one, there's a small segment of the United States government that makes scientific and technological judgments from a knowledge base that is not available to the general public. The program out at Area S4 consisted of 3 projects: Project Galileo, Project Sidekick, and Project Looking Glass. Project Galileo dealt with gravity propulsion and was the source of all the information you've learned in this first section. Project Sidekick dealt with a beam weapon that had a neutron source and was focused by a gravity lens. Project Looking Glass dealt with the physics of seeing back in time. If the following information is true, the United States government also makes judgments on a historical, philosophical, and even theological level from a knowledge base that is not available to the general public. These are excerpts from some of that information.
If you or anyone you know are into these topics right here, please follow, please share. I was only 10 days into my account and almost reached 20K followers, and all gone in a matter of a second. A follower hit me up on Facebook, had found all my duets, screen recorded those and sent them back to me, so I do apologize for the quality, but I am making new content as well. Made this account yesterday, the day before. I'm halfway to 1,000, so I can, go live if I can reach that. But I'm trying to find all those people again. And the best way I know how to do it is if you or anyone you know are into all this, like I said, follow and share. Maybe we can find those 20,000 people. I don't know.
We have covered some of these things on this channel. And I still haven't really gone into the Bible yet with Revelation and a deep dive on that. Ooh, that's going to be a really, really dark, fun one to dive into. But yeah, censorship is at an all-time high. These topics are considered, not hate speech, but it's not condoned.
I don't know how much people want to hear this, but
they want to hear it.
It will keep you awake at night. If you have children like I do.
Coming to my mind right now is remote viewing.
Yes.
Is that involved in this?
But in a very high-tech way, technologically. This where when you start experimenting with and reverse engineering an extraterrestrial vehicle, their communication systems are not based on the speed of light like our cell phones, right, or video. They're based on this understanding of the cosmos because they've lived for millennia in that understanding. Technologies that interface with directed thought. I call it technology-assisted consciousness, and consciousness that assists the technology, so they can interface bioelectric field and thought, and they navigate the spacecraft. The speed of thought versus the speed of light.
Yeah.
But think about why that's so important. If you're from the Andromeda galaxy, which is 2.5 million light years from here, at the speed of light, your cell phone, it would take 2.5 million years for a signal to get there, and another 2.5 million years for them to answer, and you hear it. 5 million years. There are certain technological thresholds you have to have crossed if you're an extraterrestrial interstellar civilization. And physicists have estimated that the volume of space in a coffee mug has enough potential energy to boil off all the oceans of the world. Tesla called it the infinite energy field. But as soon as you step into the reality, the three-dimensional reality of these UAPs and UFOs, you immediately begin talking to people, and this is what happened to me in the early 90s, to people who know the physics of the energy systems, because these things are not using oil, gas, coal, nuclear, what have you. They approached me, and this is the fall of '93, just before I briefed CIA Director Woolsey, and they said, look, you don't need to be talking. They knew all about this meeting that was going to happen. And you don't need to be talking to the president and the CIA director about this. They don't know anything, and they're not going to know anything. If you want to know, you talk to us. We're the WFO. We're the work for other contractors. We're the people who are working on these technologies and doing the technology transfer. And then they were trying to convince me to side with what they were doing. And I said, no. I said, this is a corrupt enterprise. And then he offered that, he says, you're a doctor, you can take out as many credit cards as you want. We'll zero them out each month because we run the supercomputers that back up the entire banking system. And we can get an infinite amount of money through certain techniques. And I said, then you're going to own me, aren't you? Because he says, no, we're just trying to help. You see how these... This is an absolutely true story. He put me under sodium pentothal lie detector. Now, if you look at quantum entanglement and the concepts of the universe being a holographic conscious entity, which it is, then you start talking about not just material, but you're also talking about other dimensions that are at refined levels of frequencies and vibration. But it's not like it's some distant place. It's folded within. Zoom in on it, the entire image would be in there. And zoom in again, it's holographic. The cosmos is this conscious quantum hologram. And so there are many...
Actual footage of him changing? Oh, this is him. Whoa. Whoa, chat. Is he anamorphing before our eyes? Or is it just a weird angle with bad lighting? You be the judge. Look.
Disregard all the distortions and image artifacts caused by post-edition zooming, and pay close attention to how his head features suddenly change.
Whoa. Whoa! Hey, yo!
I do remember seeing this circling the internet. What are your thoughts? Do you believe that this is real or cap? Let me know.
You deserve a chance to govern?
Sure he
After
does.
50 days.
That's exactly why you haven't seen the president on any of the shows. I mean, if I was able to charge, you guys would pay me a lot of money to come on the shows. Not a joke. That's why you haven't heard anything from us about that. He deserves a chance. And in fairness to him, this is a man, in my view, who understandably, like all the press thought, didn't think he was going to win. We had 9 months out. We put together a team that John Podesta headed up, a transition team. So and by the way, the same thing that George W. Bush did when he ran this against Al Gore, the same thing that Papa Bush did, the same thing that Bill Clinton did, the same thing every serious candidate does. So we knew if we won who we were going to ask to do what A, B, C, and D, what were our priorities were going to be, how we were going to hit. In fairness to him, I don't think there's thought to be any necessity to do that. So he's really playing catch-up ball. He should be given a chance.
So, was this a different timeline, or is the left wing and right wing part of the same bird? Let me know.
Project Looking Glass is a clandestine government initiative that allegedly manipulates timelines using advanced quantum computing technology. According to this theory, August 8, 2024 is a significant date when a timeline jump is purportedly occurring. Despite the secretive nature of the project, information has somehow been leaked, spurring a flurry of speculation and conspiracy theories. The core principle behind Project Looking Glass is collective consciousness. It posits that if enough individuals focus on and manifest a particular outcome, they could potentially alter the timeline. The fall of the Soviet Union is cited as an example of such a manifestation, although this claim is met with skepticism. The mechanism for inducing timeline jumps is said to involve creating widespread fear and confusion through catastrophic events. When people are in a state of fear, they are less effective at manifesting their own desires, making it easier for external forces to manipulate reality. However, the identity of these external forces remains a mystery. Critics dismiss such theories as pure fiction, meant for entertainment purposes. The discussion also touches on the peculiar connections and coincidences associated with August 8, 2024, and teases further exploration of related subjects, such as the rumored time traveler Donald J. Trump. The narrative warns against letting fear dictate actions and encourages individuals to maintain control over their own consciousness, suggesting a skeptical approach to claims about Project Looking Glass.
The purpose of this channel is never to induce fear. For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Never fear, but be self-aware of what's going on. Let's not be sheeple. Let's not be ostriches with their heads buried in the sand. Let's gain knowledge. Let's use discernment. And let God, Yeshua, guide our hearts. All right. Don't fear, guys. Just be self-aware. Let's go.
Project Looking Glass 2024. August 8th, in 2 days. So apparently, there's supposed to be a massive timeline shift in 2 days from now from Project Looking Glass. I'll tell you right now that I did not know a lot of information about this. People were DMing me about it and hashtagging it and saying that this was part of our jump that we had recently, and this could be another jump. Now, I'll tell you this. I go off of feels. I go off how my energy feels or shifts and how I notice things. That's how we all got here with the last jump. I just knew something was off. I'm not too familiar with this subject. I just started like researching it last night, and I was like, okay, let me just see. So if anybody has more information on it, please share it with us. Please let us know, because I don't know. I don't know if I feel a jump, but I do enjoy the theory of if like-minded people got together and focused on one point, that we could shift between positive and negative. Now, I'm all for that. Now, do I believe that one person or one entity can control it? No, I don't know. I am not sure of any of that. So I'm not giving out misinformation and saying, hey, it's this, or hey, it's that, or listen to this person or listen to that person. I generally just go off feels and energy, and that's my true compass here. So I want to know, what do you guys think about this Project Looking Glass 2024? I mean, we have to talk about it. Do you feel anything? Do you feel a jump? I do think that if you guys feel anything leading up to August 8th and August 8th or after, please share it with us, and let's see it. Let's see if we feel anything. Let's be the barometer or whatever to see if there is a shift. There is a shift coming. I know I still feel extremely positive. I know that there's work to be done here, but let us know. It's us.
Do you believe there was a shift? I didn't really know about Project Looking Glass until Gentle Mutilator, he or she gave me that suggestion to dive into Project Looking Glass. And wow, so far, right? It's crazy. But it's cool that if the masses, if we think of something in a positive or a negative connotation, it can really shift reality. And a lot of things is induced by fear and propagandas, right? So again, never fear. All right, keep God near. All right, let's go.
Basically, what we're experiencing right now is two master chess players sitting at the board. And one of them looks down at the board and sees that he's in checkmate in 7 moves. And he looks across at his opponent, and he knows that his opponent sees it too. So there's no getting out of it. So at this point, the loser can only prolong the game. Both players know the game is over. It's only a matter of time before he does this, and then you're forced to do this, and then he's forced to do this, and eventually checkmate. We, as a race, if we could understand that the game is over, that based on the rules of the game, the bad guys have already lost, the good guys have already won. Yes, there's moves left on the table, but those moves are being forced by the player that is going to win. The only way that checkmate can't happen is if the player that's winning makes a mistake. But from all of the information that I've gathered, all of the information that's been given, all of the information that's been vetted to me, it seems pretty obvious that the good guy player on the side of the chessboard knows exactly what has to be done to win the game. And so at this point, any mistake would be all but impossible. But again, you really have to understand the game to know that the guy that's losing is lost. And I'm sure most people sitting watching a chess match between two advanced chess players know the game's over long after the two players know it's over. Because they can't see the board and see that there's only 7 moves left.
So rest assured, the good guys do win. And when we say the good guys, we're talking about Yeshua. You know, they're trying to prevent his coming, trying to delay it, but Yeshua is patient. He wants the world to repent, to come back to know him, come back to know Abba, Father. You know, everything isn't, God has it in control. And sometimes we can be so, you know, bombarded with a lot of dark energies, frequencies, world news, things happening in the news. But you know what? It's going to be all right. All is well. All right, let's go.
Involving the use of America's Strangest Legends and Mysteries, Part 1. Since the year 2004, a Seattle attorney by the name of Andrew Basiago has been making the claim that as a child, he took part in a secret government program known as Project Pegasus involving the use of time travel and teleportation. According to Basiago, the DARPA-run program took place between the years 1962 and 1972 and led to the development of a number of advanced technologies including both time travel and teleportation. After being recruited at the age of 7 from a group of psychically gifted children, he later went on to become a time-traveling liaison, having met various historical figures as well as extraterrestrial entities. He claims the technology used to travel through both space and time was first discovered by Nikola Tesla, but after Tesla died in his hotel room in 1943, it was then retrieved by the government. The technology was a form of energy called radiant energy, and this is what was used to power the time machine, which Basiago describes as a vortal tunnel with parenthesis-shaped booms that were 8 feet tall and spaced about 10 feet apart. His first trip through the tunnel teleported him to the state capital of New Mexico, and after a few more years of training, he claims to have then actually traveled through time, visiting various different time periods, including the signing of the Declaration of Independence, Washington's tent during the Revolutionary War, the Gettysburg Address, where he apparently took this picture of Abraham Lincoln and that picture of himself, and even to the future in the year 2045. According to Basiago, the project was eventually shut down by the government for being too dangerous. But ever since the year 2004, he's been trying to get them to declassify all the documents related to Project Pegasus, and he's even ran for president multiple times. As for whether or not any of his claims have any weight to them, well, there is a man by the name of William Stillings who also claims to have been part of the program. But other than that, and the picture of Lincoln, the mystery of Project Pegasus has yet to be solved.
What happened was people, very smart people, began to figure out that something big was coming up. Something that made it so all the possibilities of all the future scenarios of any choice, any possibility that was fed in and observed through the looking glass inherently ended up in the same future. And no decision, no possibility changed past a certain point. That's the big secret. All possible timelines lead to the same basic set of history in the future. That is what sends everybody that has all of the information, that knows everything, into a blind panic. The people that know everything about Looking Glass, that have gotten all the reports and all the information, the elites of the world, probably figured out that that was the end of the game. And nothing could be manipulated beyond that point. One of the caveats that I do have some personal information that I did get personally involved in was some information that had to do with the Stargates and Looking Glass, and more specifically the 2012 problem with those projects. The popular opinion of what's out there right now is that the project was shut down because there was a problem when we approached 2012. I've heard it described a number of ways, but to my knowledge, the problem is that the timelines converge on that point in time. And when you know enough about the Stargate projects and the Looking Glass project to know how string theory works and how the possibility of possibilities works and how making one choice over here doesn't necessarily mean that the other choice couldn't exist at the same time. But once you get your brain wrapped around this subject, you find out that at the end of 2012, in an easy way to put it, the choices that we make become less and less consequential to the future. And eventually we're pushed into this bottleneck of time, no matter which choice we make. And that's important to the people that had access to Looking Glass because they would use Looking Glass knowing the choices that they would make and the future would pop up. The big mistake was coming up with the possibility of future. And when we started using a computer to say, well, if we make this choice, it's 79% possible that this scenario happens, and 23% are possible, or whatever, round numbers, that this scenario would happen. The understanding at the time was that was realistic. However, if you go down the road further and free will continues to exercise itself on this game, that 79% possibility sometimes changes very, very fast. But if you look at the situation in a point of time, it seems very realistic that that's the greatest possibility.
Have you heard of the Wilson Memo? On April 2019, a confidential document was leaked onto the Imager website, a 15-page memo detailing shocking new information on UFOs and aliens. Recently, during the congressional hearing on UAPs, another word for UFOs, a badass named Congressman Mike Gallagher asked defense intelligence officials if they've heard of this Wilson Memo, to which they responded,
I'm not. You're not. I'm not personally aware of that.
Now, this Wilson Memo is essentially a conversation between this guy, Admiral Thomas Wilson, the former director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, and this guy, Dr. Eric Davis, a scientist working for Earth Tech International, a research organization based in Austin, Texas. He was also part of NIDS, a group that researches paranormal phenomena and UFOs. Now, I'm obviously not going to go into all 15 pages, but I'll go over all the juicy nuggets that are worth mentioning. In the document, it alleges that this guy, Dr. Stephen Greer, the UFO researcher and creator of the Disclosure Project, told Thomas Wilson that the government has secret projects that hold and study UFO materials. This information then led Thomas Wilson to look into whether or not the government had these secret projects, to which he found that they in fact did. However, once he got a hold of one of these secret project managers, they denied him access despite his position as deputy director of the Defense Intelligence Agency. In this leaked document, Thomas Wilson apparently dug deeper and eventually found out some stuff. He tells Eric Davis in their conversation that one of these secret projects had in their possession a craft that was not made of this earth, not made by man, not made by human hands, and that they were working to reverse engineer the UFO with little to no success, with very slow progress being made. Over the past 3 years, people have questioned the authenticity or the accuracy of this Wilson Memo, and many believe that this is legit, while others, not so much. People have tried reaching out to Dr. Eric Davis, asking him if this memo is indeed legitimate, and the dude leaves everyone on red. He's also told people no comment when approached about it, so it seems like a soft yes. And Thomas Wilson has flat out denied it, saying it's all fiction and that he doesn't even know who Eric Davis is, which is kind of funny because in the document he warned Eric Davis that if he's ever questioned about it, he'll flat out deny it to protect his credibility. You know, I wonder if he'll come out of the shadows and come clean now that this conversation has propagated past the cliche that the only people who believe in UFOs are tinfoil hat wearing basement dweller wackos. Because guess what? We got Congress up in here. We winning, fam. What do you guys think? Thanks for watching, and as always, keep it a journalist.
All right, I saved this clip for last because it's a segue into the next video. We're going to do aliens, alien encounters, survivors of alien abductions, and recent sightings. All right, so we just came through the chaos. Let's end this with some motivation. All right, let's go.
Yep. I heard you say that people should stop trying to change people. Absolutely. Why would you? Accept a person as you find them, not how you wish them to be.
Yep. And sometimes you can't be looking for yourself in other people just because you're doing right. So you just got to know what you're dealing with. If you met that girl in the club, she was dancing, why would you tell her to stop? You can't change her. That's who she is. Right. You just need to accept what come with it.
Yeah.
If she gonna be on some on demon time, she gonna be on there anyway.
Right.
It ain't nothing you can do to stop that.
She gonna be who she be.
She gonna be who she is, man. And I tell people all the time, just be what you be. Just don't include me.
Your 40s. If you didn't make it in your 20s, you can make it in your 30s. And if you didn't make it in your 30s, you can make it in your 40s. And if you didn't make it in your 40s, you can make it in your 50s. And just remember Grandma Moses. She was a painter. And she didn't start painting until, I think, in her 80s. And one of the most prolific painters.
Never too late.
Never too late.
Never
So
too
have
late.
fun. That's what it's all about.
Always trust everyone to be themselves, but trust in the fact that you can see them well. You know what I mean? So it's like, it takes too much energy to not trust someone. You know what I mean? It takes too much energy. You always gotta stay 2 steps ahead of them or whatever. But trust them to be them.
To be themselves.
Trust the snake to bite you. Trust the lion to laugh. Trust the thief to steal from you. Like, trust them to be them. But know them when you see them.
Why is it that?
All right, that wraps up another one for the HFC podcast. Man, this was a long dive. For those who stayed through to the end, yo, you guys are the real ones. Thank you for all those who have been providing awesome support and comments. KXH, girl, you've been with me since the get-go. I appreciate you. You have a lot of great insight. And I want to give a shout out to Gentle Mutilator for giving me this awesome suggestion to dive down into Project Looking Glass, Anti-Venom Adams. As always, a pleasure, my friend. Matthew Deckard, yo, we're doing this. And I'm forgetting some names. But, yo, I love y'all. You know, and this journey so far is awesome because we're doing it together. As always, stay safe, stay blessed in these dark, deceptive times. And remember, we are high frequency chaos. Peace.